here's the facts. Most people, they're not lacking discipline. They're lacking a kind of clear window to commit to. This is kind of a time frame that's long enough to matter in our businesses, but short enough to stay real, like meaning it feels like I can achieve it. That's what we're diving into today. All right, everybody, welcome back to another Re-Education Experience podcast. This is that podcast-powered coaching journey that I'm providing through this new series. And we are now on episode number 6 of the C7 framework that I've never unpacked to the world, and now I'm unpacking them episode by episode in this journey. We're crossing a critical threshold now with these C's, you guys. And C number 6, here we go. I can't believe it. We've been doing this. All right, C number 6. I brought it up last time, if you stayed right to the end, is commitment. All right. So far, as a quick recap, and if you're just joining this because you got sent it and you haven't been through the journey, please go back and you'll see this, right? So we've chosen C number 1, which was courage, to get us to begin, right? To start the crazy journey that we're on. Then we found clarity on like who we want to be, what type of realtor I want to be. That allows us to move in the right direction, right? Then I pulled back and I applied constraint to say, well, we need to know where you're focusing because you can't fix it all right away, and we unpack that one. Then we built in this capacity, this ability to pull off this big plan because you had tons of motivation, you had some direction, but we needed to understand the capacity that your life can have. And then last week, we dove into the next step, which was building the rhythm with this. I mean, that's the C, cadence. So now comes with commitment. This is like the big anchor. This is the anchor. Because let's be honest, ideas are easy. You just type it into ChatGPT and you'll have thousands of them, right? They're easy. Habits are helpful, and the idea of a habit is helpful. But what holds it all together is this C, right? What keeps us from switching strategies way too often and rubbernecking, like I brought up a tons of time, and filtering the noise that's coming our way, and those endless shiny ideas that our friends are all trying in this industry. The job is commitment, and that's what we got to do. Why commitment matters. So why this matters, and not just matters now, but like matters now heavily. Commitment is the bridge, right? So if we've got this like one side of the equation and the other, and you got to build something to get to the shiny results, and you're here, right? Commitment sits right here, is the bridge between the short-term effort that you're probably about to do, and then that long-term vision that you know you have to get to, right? That's where commitment falls. It's what locks in the momentum that we've gotten to this point. And it's that little bit of I guess the word would be quiet agreement. The quiet agreement with yourself that I'm in, I'm staying, I'm gonna march, I trust in this, I've done all the work to get here, I'm gonna see this damn thing through, right? Commitment is not forever. Because just like there's different linchpins we're going to fix in our business, there's different moments that we got to commit and sprint for. And that's what people get wrong, because they think if they're going to do it, it's going to be for life and it never changes. But I've changed a ton of my commitments and the focuses as my journey evolved, and I built these bricks on my business. And if you commit to everything all the time, you end up just flat with that pie in the face again, and that burnout moment. If you commit to nothing, well, you know nothing ever changes, and that's not good too. What we're trying to do is find this middle ground, right? Again, I used the word last time, but the word container comes to mind, right? We need this middle ground. The container is something that I think is really important when it comes to commitments, because if you hear me that it doesn't have to be for forever, but it has to be more than nothing, well, what is it? Well, the key here is that this needs to be a time-bound setup. Time-bound, so all the energy we talked about is aligned, and the commitment is here to allow you to go deep without getting lost for a visible time frame, not this time frame that goes endlessly into the future, which sometimes those big, hairy, audacious goals are. What I live by and what I teach and what I wanted to unpack with you guys is this 12-week year. All right? 12-week year. So we're going to unpack how you pull this off and how this works, at least in my world, and I can hopefully share it forward with you guys, right? Commitment, what is it, right? Commitment isn't just showing up every day. It's about knowing how long we're to show up and do this thing, right? Show up and stay the course no matter what I have in front of me. So commitment, it answers the questions that come in our poor little minds. Answer the questions of, what's my promise to the plan? So if I've got a plan, it's really nice to know that I'm promising this level of commitment for this length of time. It's so helpful, right? How long also, not just a promise for that, but how long before I have to stay the course, and then that's when I review and adjust? Because we know it takes a while to get something up and running. So you're again giving yourself this time-bound section. But how long do I have to go before I truly adjust? What am I committed to doing, friends? Even if it's hard, because it will be boring, because we hope it gets that way, or even unclear. These are the things that commitment does answer for us. And for me, again, it comes back to that magic window of 12 weeks. And why is this? Well, because I think 1 year is good, as much as it is better than nothing. 1 year is too long to try to attempt to plan for. Too much assumption, and I always say on top of assumptions, off of assumptions, because we don't know how the quarters are going to go, and that you might be way behind, and it's just too long of a journey to provide that visibility. Okay, a week, like we talked last week about just having that daily cadence to check in, as well as, of course, those weekly Sunday rituals. That's too short of a time frame to build any level of momentum, right? We can build habits in the cadence, but not like tangible results yet. So I've always found that 12 weeks is the sweet spot. And it's a sweet spot that I was introduced to from another realtor who was practicing it. I was handed the book, got it laying around in my office somewhere, by Brian P. Moran. And ever since I've had that, I tried it, played with it, and have been running it and teaching it for almost a decade now. All right. When we think of like time-bound commitments, I think, back to real world analogies that do happen would be, I'm up here in Canada, so, it's nearing the end of the hockey season. Maybe by the time this episode comes in, we're already into playoffs. But there's a certain number of games. So the coach comes in, the team is acquired, and there's these timelines, right? 82 games in a season, right? If you've got a baseball, I don't play baseball, but there's a window in training camp. It's pretty significant that they all have to hunker down and play and figure this out before season begins. All these things, we don't change the playbooks mid-season unless major catastrophe happens, right? Just because one game or 2 games or 3 games, you hear it in the coaches who respond. Of course, it's media training, but a lot of it is they know there's cycles to everybody's business and cycles to the team. It can't win all the games. And that is the power to stick it through, the power of commitment. And it can create this container for true consistency in the business and gets you away from that realtor roller coastering. Okay, so let's dive in because I brought it up. The power of the 12-week year. Okay, here is how it works. You set a focused goal, right? We've already a goal that is going to be achieved in the 12 weeks. All right, so we need a focused goal. This could be whatever. 12 listings. It could be sell 4 houses. It could be make 100K. It could be whatever, a focused goal that you know that you're challenging for. It could be 100 contacts, whatever that might be. Then with this, the focus goal, we build from last week your cadence around it to say, well, this is what I will do day in, day out through the Sunday rituals and the daily wrap-ups to chart towards this goal. Okay? You evaluate and adjust only at the end, right? Not some crazy midweek setting, some mid-month change of heart. You only then adjust major tweaks at the end of that 12-week journey, okay? And then, right, you're in a position that you can remove something, which I think is very important. We get to remove the false comfort of knowing you've got the rest of the year to figure it out. Because what happens is if you do an annual business plan and then you check in quarterly, your mindset is on completion of the goal by the end of the year. But when you have a 12-week window, you don't let yourself off the hook and say, I'll catch up next quarter. And we're just finishing Q1 here as I record this, and a lot of people are behind. I'd say 80% of the people I talk to are still behind, and they're worried that they'll catch up. But why not set a 12-week agenda that allows us to at least hit the goal or beyond, and don't give ourselves these windows to say, I'll just fix it later. Let's give yourself a healthy 12-week a time frame to put your energy behind, right? 12 weeks we know is good enough to make real progress, 100%, but it is close enough to see that finish line, right? When I talk to agents and when I coach agents, oftentimes this is not the case. They will keep switching plans every couple of weeks. It could be their lead gen source, right? It could be that one marketing idea that they kind of like dabbled. It could be the plan around the CRM and its management. Whatever that might be, agents don't stick long enough, so nothing truly sticks, right? Agents don't have a commitment issue here, I think, is because they don't put the plan in and define that start and end dates. So you have that commitment for which they're bound to. They just do it for a bit, and then because they don't have this like structure, they just fall away and they try something new, right? That means you get no benefits, right? You tweak things and you stay the course longer. You're going to find that 12-week plan can create real results. You're going to improve on what you're trying to achieve, and it's kind of like the magic trick. Anyways, so how to commit smarter to this and not just harder? Because I know commitments and timelines can feel that way. It can feel heavy. I'm going to give you like 4 steps here. 4 steps to consider to rock and roll with this. So as we define your 12-week objective, ask yourself this question. What would make this quarter a win? What would make it a win, right? What is that? That's something to get jacked up for, isn't it? Right? What would make this thing a win in this quarter? Okay. So then with that, we're going to align our weekly cadence to that goal, right? So we have to ask ourselves, what are the non-negotiables to make that win happen? What distractions must go? So 2 things. What are the non-negotiables to make that win, that seeable win? And what distractions must go so that I can do it? So what was that? Yeah, so align your weekly cadence. Align the cadence with those 2 questions. Number 3, if you've gotten this far with C6, I assume you're pretty committed to trying this out to make this work. I think more than ever, because it's going to feel foreign, I'm hoping you've shared this podcast with others, and maybe it's a team member, there's a colleague that you're working through this together, because it is hard to consume all of this and take action all by yourself. So do you have a coach? Do you have a friend in the business? Do you have a team member? Do you have a partner in the business that could help you get the commitments vocalized and realized so that there's somebody there to hold you to the thing? Okay? All right. I would love for this to be one of your plans. All right. So that would be accountability. And it can be as simple as a check-in. All right. Text me on Tuesday with what you achieved. I'll do the same to you. Let's keep yourselves on track. Right. And then the 4th step is literally, I can't even write. Hold the line, you guys. 12 weeks of anything will feel new, especially if you've never done this before. Let's not tweak anything. Let's just go hard, and let's go and trust the process. Because again, you should give yourself full integrity that what you've done to get to this point is probably worth doing for this time, or else you would have wasted all your time through all these C's and time with me, especially if you've come on these workshops. A real world example would be Olympic athletes, right? The big one is hit every 4 years, they get a chance to go compete against the world, right? So the Olympic athletes have that opportunity, but they are certainly not judging their progress over 4 years, because like they have no idea if they're swimmer, where the times are going to be at certain points. But they don't train for the 4-year goal. They train in phases, in micro phases and adjusted phases, and they break things down. So I'm not an Olympic athlete, but I would assume they would be structured plans that take them pace by pace. And then as they get closer to the big goal, they can make course corrections, but over sprint type mentalities, 12 and 13 weeks, right? They commit to that. Okay. Hopefully that makes some sense. The dangers that we would have of undefined commitments, I think is important for you guys to know, not to scare you, but to more just move you into action, right? If you don't define your commitment window, you're going to do like what you might have done already. You're going to quit too soon. Without that, you're going to pivot too often. and you're going to burn out. And to be honest, you're not going to even know why. Right? Those three things, right? You're going to mistake the discomfort that you're feeling for misalignment. And you'll rob yourself of the results that will come from consistency over time. And you know what visual comes to mind here? And I can't draw it, but would be maybe I'll try. The dude that's in the cave, right? And you've seen this, and he's got his pickaxe or her banging away at the wall. And then they're trying to get to some treasure on the other side, this beautiful treasure. And the guy or gal just stops here and then turns back around. And they leave that gold for the next guy or gal, or that market share that continues to just keep going all the way until they find that beautiful shiny treasure and take it home themselves. So I don't want this to be you, right? One of the hardest conversations I always have with agents is who started down this path, and they created that cadence, they created this rhythm, they followed the path, they started marching right along. Things were clicking, leads were coming in, system was moving, right? Nurturing a little bit of that, some client work. But for some reason, against anything that I could share, they felt compelled to course correct and try something different. And in this day and age, with the noise coming, with AI, with challenges, with brokerages, with all the things that could distract somebody from just going and selling another house, people make other things a problem. And then they pivot into their short window of commitment. In our case, say 9 of the 12 weeks, and they say, no, this isn't working because if I put up 9 videos on YouTube, 1 per week, and I'm not seeing results yet. But then you talk to the agents that have done it for now 6 months, and they're starting to see results, and their view counts are growing. And it hurts me because I know they had it going, but they chose to just pivot and change. So now that you've made it here, what if the real difference between the top producer and a struggling agent isn't the talent or tools, you guys? And I shared this somewhere along the journey, but it's their time in the plan. Hear that again. What if the real difference between top producers and struggling agents is not the talent, the experience, or the tools? It's just the time that they committed inside of their plan. Oof, it kind of gives me goosebumps when I hear that, right? What if the results aren't missing? It's just not ripened yet. And I could go on, I could type this language into ChatGPT, could give me all the motivational quotes that I came up with, but I think those two things are important to know. What if this quarter, 12 weeks, could be your most focused, powerful sprint? Because you finally made it through this point of really slow play this to finally get you to commit to something long enough for it to work, right? We don't commit to everything, but whatever you do commit to, stay with it. That's it. See it through, build a bridge. All those things I've already demonstrated on paper here. So here we are, you guys. We've gone through C1 to C6. This has been a heck of a journey. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, if you want to take part in the Rome free workshops, the Realtor on a Mission, you have to just go to reeducation.school, join Rome, it's free, and then all the resources, and then you get prompted with the emails that come up to get you into the live workshop with me and others so that we can mastermind this and workshop this to really move the needle in your business, because that's what this is for. I'm not creating content for the sake of creating content. Thank you for being here on the C1 to C6 journey. I hope it challenged you a little bit to anchor deeper into this. Next up, you guys, this is our final chapter. Finally, the final C is a big one. I'm going to hit you hard over the head with this one. And this one is called conviction. This is the one that's going to carry you through. When the results aren't here yet, when the commitment is moving, but you don't have anything yet, the vision, right? The vision still matters. So until then, you guys have a great week. See you on the inside of Rome. Share it with those that you can. Drop me a subscribe and a review. Would be amazing to get this kind of info out to more people. I think could help change lives, build better realtors. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.